how to say that doesn't work for me without shame. Have you ever agreed to something just to keep the peace, but ended up feeling drained, frustrated, or even invisible afterward? Maybe it was a family member expecting you to babysit at the last minute. Or a friend asking for a favor when you were already exhausted. You didn't want to disappoint anyone, so you said yes, even though every part of you wanted to say no. That quiet, sinking feeling? That's your inner voice whispering, "This doesn't work for me." But somehow, saying it out loud feels wrong. Like it would make you selfish, difficult, or unkind. You're not alone. Especially as we grow older, many of us have been conditioned to be accommodating. To smile and nod. To not make a fuss. We've spent decades putting others first, as parents, partners, co-workers, caregivers. And while there's beauty in that, there comes a time when continuing to say yes to everything means saying no to yourself. But here's the truth I want to share with you today. It's okay to say, "That doesn't work for me." In fact, it's more than okay. It's healthy. It's respectful. And it's a way of honoring your time, your energy, and your life. And you can do it without shame. Let's talk about how. One of the first things to understand is that boundaries aren't about being rude. They're about being real. There's a quiet power in simply being honest, not dramatic, not defensive, just clear. When someone asks something of you and you know it doesn't align with your energy, your priorities, or your comfort, you don't owe them an elaborate excuse. You don't have to bend yourself into a knot to justify why you can't do something. You're allowed to say, "I'm not available for that." Or, "That doesn't work for me right now." That's it. Full stop. No guilt required. I remember talking to a woman named Elaine. She's 72 and sharp as ever. She told me how, for years, she was the yes person in her family. Every event, every favor, every last-minute request, she was the one who made it work. Until one day, she realized something. She was exhausted, and no one was noticing. Not out of cruelty, but because they'd come to expect her to always show up. So, one day, when her niece asked her to host a big family brunch, again, she paused. Took a breath. And simply said, "I love our family time, but I won't be hosting this time. I need to rest." She told me, my hands were shaking when I said it. But after I hung up, I felt free. Like I had finally taken my life back. That's what we're talking about here. Saying no, or saying that doesn't work for me, doesn't mean slamming doors. It means opening one, for yourself. Now, I know, it's not always that simple. Sometimes we hesitate because we're afraid of how people will react. Maybe they'll be disappointed. Maybe they'll push back. Maybe they'll stop asking us altogether. But let me ask you something. If the only way to keep people close is to constantly betray your own needs, is that really closeness? The people who truly love you, the ones who matter, will understand. And the ones who don't understand, they might need a reminder that your life isn't a service menu they can pick from at will. Another gentle way to express your boundaries is by offering an alternative without over-apologizing. If someone asks you for a favor and you genuinely can't do it, you might say, "I'm not available that day, but I hope it goes well. Let me know how it turns out." You're not leaving them high and dry, you're showing kindness while still honoring your limit. This works beautifully in situations that feel emotionally loaded, too. Like when a friend shares a political rant or personal drama that you just don't have the bandwidth to absorb. Instead of sitting there stewing in discomfort, you can say, "I care about you, but I'm not in the space for this right now." No argument. No shame. Just truth. And here's the beautiful thing, the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Like a muscle, your ability to set healthy limits gets stronger with use. At first, it might feel awkward. You might second-guess yourself. But with time, you'll start to feel more grounded, more in tune with what actually brings you peace. There's this idea, especially for older adults, that we should be endlessly patient, endlessly agreeable. But life isn't meant to be lived on mute. You've earned the right to speak up, to protect your energy, and to choose how you spend your time. So, the next time someone asks something of you, big or small, take a breath before you answer. Tune in. Ask yourself, does this really work for me? And if the answer is no, give yourself permission to say so, kindly, clearly, and without apology. Let's take this one small step further, because saying that doesn't work for me is only the beginning. Let's take this one small step further, because saying that doesn't work for me is only the beginning. There's often a ripple effect when we begin to draw new boundaries, especially if we haven't done it much before. Some people might be surprised. Others might push back a little, testing to see if you really mean it. And that's when the doubt starts to creep in. You wonder, was I too harsh, or did I hurt their feelings? But I want to gently remind you, discomfort is not the same as damage. You're not breaking relationships, you're clarifying them. And in many cases, you're strengthening them. Because the healthiest relationships are built on honesty, not silent sacrifice. Let me tell you about a man named George. He's 68, retired, and the kind of guy everyone depends on. Need help moving furniture? Call George. Dog needs walking while you're away? George will do it. And while he loved being helpful, it got to the point where he didn't have a single day to himself. His mornings were spent running errands for others, his afternoons doing favors, and his evenings too tired to enjoy his own hobbies. One day, George sat down and asked himself, what would happen if I stopped saying yes to everything? So the next time someone asked him to pick up groceries, again, he paused and said, I won't be able to do that today. No excuse. No long-winded explanation. Just calm, clear truth. He told me later, it felt strange. Like I was letting someone down. But I also realized I was finally showing up for myself. And you know what happened? Nothing terrible. His friend figured it out. Life went on. And George? He spent that afternoon fishing by the lake, something he hadn't done in months. Sometimes, the world doesn't fall apart when you say no. It rearranges itself. And you finally have space to breathe. But what if the person you need to say no to is someone really close to you? A spouse. A grown child. A best friend. That's where things get a little more delicate, isn't it? It's easy to assume that love means always saying yes. Always showing up. Always putting your own needs last. But love that costs you your peace isn't really love. Not the kind that nourishes both people. In these moments, instead of defending yourself, try simply standing in your truth. Say something like, I know this is important to you, but I need to take care of myself right now. Or, I care deeply about you, and that's why I need to be honest, this doesn't feel right for me. Notice how those words aren't aggressive. They aren't selfish. They're rooted in love. But they also make it clear, your time and energy matter, too. One woman I spoke to, her name was Carla, shared how hard it was to set boundaries with her daughter. Her daughter had grown used to calling multiple times a day, often venting for an hour or more. Carla loved her, of course, but after a while, she felt emotionally drained. Still, the guilt of saying something held her back. Until one afternoon, she gently said, Sweetheart, I always want to hear from you, but I'm finding these long calls a bit overwhelming. Could we try shorter check-ins instead? And you know what? Her daughter was surprised, but she wasn't upset. In fact, over time, their conversations became more focused, more respectful, and more joyful. Because Carla had honored both their needs, not just one. This is what happens when we speak up. We make space for honesty, for mutual care. We allow our relationships to grow up alongside us. Now, here's something important to keep in mind. Not every boundary will be met with applause. Some people may not understand at first. That's okay. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to honor your truth with kindness. And kindness, by the way, includes being kind to yourself. If you stumble, if you say yes when you meant no, don't beat yourself up. Growth isn't a straight line. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be real. So next time you find yourself in that moment, someone asks you for something, and your gut says no, try placing a hand on your heart. Take a breath. And ask yourself, is this coming from obligation or from love? If it's obligation, that's a sign to pause. To consider. And maybe, just maybe, to say, that doesn't work for me. You don't owe the world your exhaustion. You owe it your authenticity. And if you're wondering how to rebuild your life around these small moments of honesty, how to reconnect with yourself, and rewire those old habits of people-pleasing, stay with me. We're going to take this a little deeper. We're going to take this a little deeper. Because learning how to say that doesn't work for me isn't just about saying no. It's about reclaiming something you may have lost along the way, a sense of self that was buried beneath years of being agreeable, accommodating, and endlessly available. When you start honoring your own needs, something beautiful happens. You begin to recognize what does work for you. You start to notice how much more energy you have when your days aren't overloaded. You realize how much lighter your heart feels when you're not carrying other people's expectations on your back. It's not just about boundaries. It's about freedom. But it takes practice. It takes self-trust. And sometimes, it takes rewiring a lifetime of habits. That's why I always tell people, start small. You don't need to transform overnight. Maybe your first no is turning down a social event you don't have the energy for. Maybe it's telling your neighbor, I won't be able to feed your cats this weekend. Maybe it's letting a phone call go to voicemail because you're in the middle of a quiet moment with yourself. These may seem like small acts, but they're radical in the best way. Each one says, I matter too. And you do. You know, I once met a gentleman in his early 70s, his name was Henry. He had this calm, steady energy about him, the kind that fills a room without saying much. He told me that for most of his life, he was the peacekeeper. The one who smoothed things over, who made sure everyone else was okay. But somewhere along the way, he realized something was missing. He told me, I had spent decades learning how to make other people comfortable. I never learned how to make myself comfortable with saying no. So, he made a quiet decision. For 1 year, he would give himself permission to pause before saying yes to anything. To check in with himself first. And if something didn't feel right, he'd gently decline, even if it made others uncomfortable. By the end of that year, Henry wasn't bitter. He wasn't lonely. He was grounded. He said, for the first time, I felt like my life fit me. Like a suit tailored just for me. And that's what I want for you. Because you are not here to fit into everyone else's plans. You are here to live a life that feels like home to your soul. When you say that doesn't work for me, you're not pushing people away. You're inviting them to see the real you, the you who knows your limits, your values, your peace. And when you live from that place, the relationships that matter most will deepen. Because they'll be built on something solid. Something honest. And if some people don't like the new boundaries, that's okay. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you've grown. And not everyone is meant to come with you into every season of life. I want you to hear this, saying no is not a rejection of love. It's an act of self-respect. It's you saying, I will no longer abandon myself to be accepted by others. And that is one of the most powerful, courageous things a person can do, at any age. So if no one has told you this lately, let me be the one to say it now. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to choose. You are allowed to say, this doesn't work for me. Without guilt. Without apology. Without shame. You've earned that right. And if you're still finding your voice, still learning how to speak those words out loud, start with this. Try saying them to yourself. In the mirror. Softly. Firmly. With your hand over your heart. Then, when the moment comes, and it will come, you'll be ready. You'll breathe. You'll speak. And you'll stand, not in shame, but in strength. I'd love to hear from you. What's one area in your life where you're learning to honor yourself more? Feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters, and your courage might just help someone else find theirs. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it and subscribe to Elderly Wisdom 1969 for more uplifting content made just for you. And remember, no matter your age, it's never too late to live in truth, to speak with grace, and to walk through this world with your head held high. Here's to living with strength, with clarity, and without shame. You've got this.